Hi guys, Kayla here. Back to talk more about animal body coverings. Now last time we talked a little bit about animals with some different types of skin, and I gave you guys a bit of a challenge. This time we are moving on to the body covering that birds have. This is something that all birds have, big and small. And I'm talking, of course, about feathers. Feathers are super amazing. And the first thing you probably think of with how a feather can help a bird is, of course, flying. And that can certainly be true, but what about the birds that don't fly? So even birds like penguins and peacocks and flightless birds, they also have feathers as well. So they can actually serve lots of different functions. This feather that I've got right here, see how it's really strong? I can't really even bend it. This is a perfect example of a flight feather. So when I flap it like this, I can feel the breeze coming off of it, and this is what helps the bird to get lift and to lift themselves up off the ground so that they can fly. It's made up of a strong shaft in the middle, and then the rest of the feather on the outside. And you know what I think is actually super cool about these flight feathers is that even though it looks like one solid thing, you can actually unzip it. And you know how you've got a zipper on your jumper and it zips up and down? That's the same way that feathers stick together. So right now I've unzipped this feather, but if you go like this, you can actually zip it up again. And sometimes when you see birds and they've got their beak and they're running their beak all through their feathers and it kind of looks like they're grooming themselves, a lot of times they're getting their feathers all in order and zipping them all up so that they're in the best shape to be flying. So, perfect example of a flight feather, and this one comes from a beautiful Brahminy kite. This is a bird that you might see flying near the beach or even near the river. They like to fly along and find food things that might have washed up on the shore and go down and check it out. But like I said, not all feathers are ideal for flying. So this feather, for example, is very beautiful, but if I flop it around, I'm not going anywhere with this feather. This is definitely not a flying feather. So this, of course, is the feather of a peacock, and they use their feathers for showing off and being the brightest and the most beautiful and for attracting a mate. So feathers can also be used for communicating, like a peacock's feathers. Feathers can also sometimes help birds to camouflage, and they can also protect their bodies and provide almost like a shield from the elements. So, just like last time with the skin, I do have a bit of a challenge for you guys. I have collected some of my favorite feathers from animals here at Lone Pine, and I want to show you each of the feathers. I want you to have a think about whether it would be a flying feather or not, and maybe even think about which bird the feathers might have come from. So, feather number one. This is a really cool big feather. We can definitely unzip and zip it back off. Let's see, if I do a bit of this, oh yeah, definitely getting some breeze off of that. Looks to me like this would be a very good flying feather. Feather number two. Also quite a strong feather. Look at the colors. We've got a bit of white, fading to a bit of yellow down here. You might have even found a feather like this if you were out doing a bit of backyard exploring. Feather number two. Feather number three, or feathers number three. I reckon these are my favorite feathers. Now they kind of look like hair, but they are not. These are actually feathers. They're all together in a little bunch. Do these look like flying feathers to you? I don't think so. They're very dark. They're actually quite black. And I wonder how these might help this bird if they're not very good for flying. All right, our last feather is this one. Now, I know you can't feel it, but when I'm touching this feather right now, it is so soft. Almost feels just like air. And that's because this feather has a little ridge along the outside, little fringes that come off just like this. And what that does is when this bird uses these feathers, when it flaps its wings, it produces no sound. So it helps this bird to fly very, very quietly. It's also got a bit of a pattern on it as well. Some really beautiful striping. Might be used for camouflage. I don't know. All right, so those are the 4 feathers for your 4 feather challenge. And we're gonna see if you can do a bit of matching, okay? So the options for where you think the feathers belong, we've got a barking owl, sulfur-crested cockatoo, cassowary, and a white-bellied sea eagle. So your job is to think of which feathers belong to which animal. So again, we've got feather number 1, feather number 2, feathers number 3, and feather number 4. Let us know what you think in the comments section. See if you can get 4 out of 4, and then we'll be meeting a feathered friend. Bye! Hi guys, this is Kayla. This week we've been talking all about different types of animal body coverings and how those body coverings help an animal to survive in its habitat. And one of the body coverings we've talked about is feathers, which of course all birds have. Now I've been joined by a really awesome bird. This guy's name is Pobble, and he is a tawny frogmouth. They often get confused for owls because they do look a bit like an owl, but they're not an owl at all. They're a member of the nightjar family of birds. And they are a nocturnal bird, so they will be out mostly at nighttime looking for food. And their feathers are actually really important for them to catch their food. Do you see the feathers that are sticking out from the top of Pobble's beak? Kind of like little whiskers? Those feathers help him detect what's going on around him. So tawny frogmouths will stay very, very still, and they'll wait. And they wait for a bug, like a moth, to fly past them. And if something touches the end of those feathers, it's like a trigger, and they go, and they chomp up the bug into their mouths. Now their feathers are also really great for camouflaging. So you might be able to see that his feathers match really well with the branch that he's sitting on. So when a tawny frogmouth is sleeping, or when they're frightened and they want to blend in, they will suck their bodies in and make themselves really, really skinny and hold their heads up, and they look exactly like a stick. Now you might have noticed that Pobble's eye on this side is bright yellow, and the eye that's facing you now is all black. That's because Pobble was actually hit by a car, and that's why he lives here at Lone Pine, because he can't actually see out of that eye that's all black. But he's a super amazing bird, and this is a type of bird that you can find in your backyard around Brisbane. So go out at night and you'd look up in the trees and you can sometimes hear them. They make a really cool sound. It kind of sounds like... So if you hear that sound at night, have a look. You might just have a tawny frogmouth in your backyard. Bye!